The Last of Us Part 2 is a hard game to discuss without going into spoilers, like without mentioning some of the big things that happen. And in my review that I posted before the release, I said that I think that it's good to go into this game not expecting a similar journey as we saw in The Last of Us 1. And also that Naughty Dog challenges you to see this world in a different light. I did not care about some of the things that were going on at first, but in the end I really appreciate the approach. At the time of this recording, almost 20% already finished the game, and that is nuts in 1 week time, especially if you think about the amount of people who bought it. Like Sony just announced that they sold 4 million in the first few days, so it's likely 6 million already by this point. But yeah, this also means of course that the vast majority is not done. So if you are not done yet, I want to ask you to come back after you finished it and then share your thoughts. Because in this video I will go full spoiler mode and also go more in depth on the impressions I shared in my pre-launch review. Because now we can really discuss everything. So a like on the video would be super appreciated. And let's go. Let's start with Joel, who of course dies very early in the game, like 2 hours in. You run into him while playing Abby, and then the only way to survive the horde is to go to the cabin where she and all the other wolves are staying. So this very friendly at first, until they hear that this person is called Joel, who they are of course looking for. And a bold move to immediately kill off the main character of the first game. Like, going back to what I said in my review, don't expect a similar journey as in The Last of Us 1. And I love how we still had some Joel and Ellie missions as flashbacks, but that's of course nothing compared to the continuous adventure that we had in the first game. And I mean, Naughty Dog could just have made a game like that Dina got killed and then Ellie wants revenge and Joel goes out and helps her. But then the world would lose a lot of its realism, a lot of its believability. Now we see Joel pay for his actions. Like, I get what he did after going through all the emotions of the first game, but to have that be unpunished would be kind of weird. He killed doctors who could help people and were actually trying to make the world a better place, and also innocent lives were taken to save that one girl. It makes sense that the people he killed had families that now want revenge. And sure, I'm sad that we did not see a lot of Joel in this game, but I also totally get why he died, and it makes the journey that Ellie goes on and the many things she does way more understandable. Like, no other character meant that much to her. But Naughty Dog of course goes way further, because they want us to then suddenly care about Joel's killer, and actually also Jesse's killer by the time you fully switch to her. And I was really like, no way they can make me sympathize with her. And especially the goals you had while playing as Abby did not really work for me. Like, go find Owen, who we actually already killed in the present day. So then you do this whole mission, going to the aquarium, while you already know that he will be dead anyways. And sure, Abby did not know this, but it was still kinda hard to get invested in these characters, in their relationship, when you already know the bad ending. I still get why they did it, and in the end it makes sense to get the full picture, but in the moment I did not really care, and that's why it was awesome to have the extra world building going on in the Abby sections. Like, the stadium was awesome. Like, how do these factions live in this horrible world? It was awesome to figure that out and to actually be a part of one. Something that we could have never experienced if we stuck with Ellie. But then luckily Lev and Yara happen, because we did not meet these characters before with Ellie, so we don't know their faith. And I really thought that Abby's arc got way stronger because of those characters. Like, they saved her life and now she cares about them. Sure, a solid thing you could say is that it's kind of weird that Abby just came to know these characters and was already ready to risk everything for them. But in my opinion, like, if you really think about it, she did not have anything else anymore. Like, Owen was with Mel, she was hated and being hunted by her own faction. So really Yara, and later on only of course Lev, was all she had. And as I noted in my review as well, I really liked how we went on missions with a ton of different characters. Like, they changed it up beautifully, and I was always excited to learn more about Jesse, for example, in Seattle, or then later on Lev, who also taught us about the Seraphites. And even if I did not care about Abby in particular, in that moment, the missions you do as her are just way cooler than with Ellie, in my opinion. Like going over the bridge that the Scars built, and then going to their island. You hear so many stories about that, especially if you also pick up all the notes, so you are really wondering like how they live. And I love how this game doesn't leave a lot to your imagination, and that you actually get to explore the locations that you hear so much about. And yeah, then the impossible happened. I liked Abby more than Ellie in this game. I think this line for Abby is just so right.
Just let him go. You killed my friends. We let you both live. And you wasted it. Wait! Get off of her! Stop me! Come on.
And that is really the thing I feel, like Abby got a revenge on Joel because he killed her dad and of course many other Fireflies. And in return, Ellie is just killing everyone that Abby ever loved. And you could argue that she also got the blood from Jesse on her own hands, because he really did nothing wrong and just cares way too much about his people. Ellie really lost it, and we saw that thanks to the brutal ways she killed everyone who was in that room when Joel died, including the pregnant Mel. And Abby did not kill Dina, although sure she was going to, but in the end she made up her mind. And I think that the leaks got to this point, so people who saw the leaks thought that this was going to be the ending, the fight in the theater. And then I do get that people are kind of angry, because what happened to Ellie's revenge, right? Why do we get to fight her as Abby and not the other way around? So that's why I really liked the sort of long epilogue in Santa Barbara. When Tommy came over, I immediately thought, yes, this is what Ellie is going to do. And I think it's fair to the player as well. Like, if you were still on her side and did not like Abby, then you hoped for this moment. Although I would argue that if you really want the best for Ellie, then she should have just stayed on that farm and lived a happy life with Dina and the child. But yeah, she had to finish what she started. She was likely already so far gone, as we see with the trauma as well, that in her head this was the only right thing that she could do. And I love it when games or movies continue with a pretty substantial part when you already think that it was going to be over. Like James Bond's Casino Royale is a perfect example of this. I really love that movie. And yeah, we saw it here as well. So first we go, of course, as Abby, and I thought that this was really sad. They had this spark of hope for a moment, and then it all turned into a horrible situation, as everything in this world does. And it also puts things in perspective, that even if Ellie did not kill Owen, he would have died anyways if he actually made it to Santa Barbara. And you could actually argue that he would have suffered way more as a slave of these people than how he died right now at Ellie's hands. And I'm of course curious to hear your takes as well regarding all of this in the comments down below. But when Ellie finally reached Santa Barbara and took out these enemies, I loved, by the way, that they had a chained infected that you could also let loose on these enemies. And of course getting the silenced MP5 that changed more than I thought it would, making killing enemies way more exciting for that brief moment. But yeah, then you see Abby completely abused and weak on the beach with Lev, and Ellie still wanted to go through with this. Like, I felt it was already enough at this point. Like, there has been enough harm already. I had trouble hitting square actually when fighting Abby, because what if Abby died because of that? And at this point I was like, I don't want either of them to die, or actually I want Abby to win. And I think that this is the biggest achievement of this game, that you make this full 180 on Ellie and actually care more about Abby in the end. And that only happened because of the journey you had with Abby, the missions you played. Like, I was called a liar, a shill, and my review was being paid because I really said that I enjoyed the game. But like, by that point, the trophy percentage for beating the game was still below the 1%. So everyone who was likely hating on it just watched the cutscenes or saw the leaks, and then they were like, what the heck did they do with the characters that they so beautifully created in the first game? And I know that some people still have that opinion after actually rolling the credits. Again, I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, but I personally like the bold direction that we don't see in many games. I never knew what was going to happen next, and I actually really like that. It makes sense for this world. Nobody is really safe in this story, and that is awesome. I also like the small differences between the two characters, like Abby was more capable against clickers and used the craftable knife like Joel to take out infected rapidly, instead of always having a knife like Ellie did. Ellie could craft arrows, but Abby had a crossbow, and Abby had more ammo in general and just a better weapon from the get-go because she was part of the wolves. And again, just seeing the world through the eyes of someone who is part of a faction is awesome, and running into the characters and animals that you already killed with Ellie made you care even more for these NPCs that would normally just be there to be killed. And I never really have the urge to replay a Naughty Dog game because I already know the story, but I'm really loving New Game Plus in The Last of Us Part 2 so far because of the amazing gameplay that I just can't get anywhere else. And I actually did a stream as well where I went through all the encounters, and that was a ton of fun too. Like, the gameplay is insane, and that bodes well for the multiplayer that will come at some point. But before that, I also expect some support for the single player game though. And when we have news on updates, I will of course let you know here, so totally subscribe if you haven't already. There's a ton to talk about with this game, and I like it how everyone has a different opinion, while with the first game everyone was kinda on the same page. So that is pretty interesting, and I might actually prefer it like this, so we can have way more interesting conversations. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought. A like on the video would be super appreciated. You can check out my previous Last of Us Part 2 video by clicking on the screen about all the weapons and how you can find them early, because maybe you actually found them later on in the game. For now though, I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.